They say silence means peace. For her, silence was a sentence. Helena believed all she needed was strength to stay in control, to keep going, to hold it together. But the truth is, no one survives pretending to be fine for too long. When the body screams, it's the soul asking for help. And it was silence, the very thing she feared, that finally made her listen. What the world called failure was, for her, the beginning of freedom, because silence isn't absence, it's confrontation. It's the mirror that shows everything the noise tries to hide. And when it arrives, it tears away masks, destroys certainties, and forces you to start again from nothing. Helena lost everything: control, strength, answers. But among the ruins of who she once was, something new was born: a consciousness, a truer life, a purpose that the noise of the world would never have allowed to bloom. The silence that almost killed her was the same silence that saved her. There are moments when life does not break, it simply stops speaking. When the world grows silent, and all that remains is the echo of our own breath. That was how Helena's new life began, inside a silence she didn't choose, but that would one day become her salvation. She lived in a world made of routine and symmetry. Everything around her was in perfect order. The coffee brewed on time, the bed always made, the scent of lavender that clung to the air. To anyone looking from the outside, she had it all together. But silence had already moved in inside her chest. Behind her smiles, Helena had spent years listening to others. She was a therapist, the kind of person who could hold another's pain with grace and gentleness. But in caring for so many voices, she had forgotten the sound of her own. The mornings arrived without meaning. The days passed like unturned pages. And each night, when the house fell quiet, she felt the truth she tried so hard to avoid. She was empty. Then came the phone call. A voice trembling on the other end of the line. An accident. Her brother, Raphael. And suddenly, the silence was no longer a choice. It was a scream that had lost its sound. In the hospital's pale corridors, time lost its shape. The world became a blur of white walls, footsteps, and words that her mind refused to absorb. And when she finally understood, when the finality of it reached her, something inside her shattered, completely and without warning. The following days dissolved into gray. She moved like a shadow through her own home, her body obeying out of habit while her soul lagged behind. The woman who once guided others through their storms now drifted without compass or map. Even her own breath felt borrowed. Grief has a way of stripping us down to our truth, and hers was simple. She no longer knew how to live. When the panic came, it arrived like a storm. Her chest constricted, the air fled, her body trembled. She fell to the floor, unable to call for help. And in that moment of complete helplessness, she met the truth of her pain. The body speaks when the soul can no longer bear the silence. That night, when the tremors finally stopped, Helena sat in the dark, her face streaked with tears, and whispered to no one, "I can't do this anymore." But the dawn that followed brought a quiet clarity. She packed a few belongings, left a note on her kitchen table, and drove away from the city without destination, without plan, only the desire to breathe again. Hours later, she reached a small mountain town, wrapped in mist and the scent of pine. She rented a simple house, white walls and blue shutters, surrounded by an overgrown garden. When she stepped inside, it felt like stepping into another life. The air was cool, still, untouched. For the first time in months, she slept. In the days that followed, time softened. The mountains stood like silent guardians outside her window, and the air hummed with a stillness she had never known before. At first, it frightened her, the absence of noise, the absence of people, the absence of distraction. But soon, that same emptiness began to cradle her. She spent her mornings walking barefoot in the garden, her afternoons reading, and her evenings watching the sun die quietly behind the hills. Little by little, her body remembered what peace felt like. She began to write, not to understand, but to release. Her notebook filled with fragments, small truths she didn't know she carried. The silence does not punish, it heals pain. When heard becomes prayer, maybe I was never lost, only too noisy to hear myself. Each line became a thread stitching her back together. One day, during her walks, she met an old woman who lived in a cottage covered in ivy. Her name was Celia. She sold herbs and spoke little, but her eyes carried the calm of someone who had already crossed many storms. They would sit together in silence, sometimes for hours, watching the wind move through the trees. And in that quiet company, Helena felt something she hadn't in a long time: belonging. The woman once told her, "Grief is not the end, my dear. It is a doorway. You cross it, and on the other side, you find who you truly are." Helena never forgot those words. That night, the dreams returned. Her brother's voice, their last argument, the words left unsaid. She woke with tears streaming down her face, whispering into the dark, "Forgive me." The next morning, she wrote him a letter. It poured out of her like a flood, everything she'd never said: regret, love, sorrow, gratitude. And when she finished, she cried again, but this time, her tears felt clean. Grief had become grace. As weeks passed, she began to understand something she had never dared to before. The emptiness she feared was not absence, it was space. A sacred space where life could begin again. And one morning, sitting in the garden, she felt it, a whisper inside her chest, gentle and unmistakable: "You didn't lose him, Helena. He only went home first." She smiled. For the first time in years, she smiled and meant it. The silence that once haunted her now felt holy. Winter arrived, cold but kind. Helena rose before dawn, stepping into the chill, barefoot on the earth. Above her, the stars began to fade into the first light of day, and deep within her, a warmth stirred, a small flame, patient and bright. For months she had searched for meaning in books, in people, in the past. Now she saw. It had always been here, within her breath, her body, her stillness. The flame had never gone out. She had simply stopped looking. She cooked again, she sang, she wrote. Every act became prayer. Every moment, a quiet offering to life. Healing, she wrote, is not returning to who I was. It is remembering who I have always been. When she visited Celia again, they sat together in silence, wrapped in blankets, watching the world turn gold. The old woman smiled and said, "The fire does not destroy, my dear. It purifies." Helena nodded. The fire had burned everything that was false, and what remained was truth. That night, by the glow of the fireplace, she understood. Everything I lost was making space for everything I was meant to find, and she wept not from pain, but from recognition. In the weeks that followed, she felt called to share her words. She posted her writings online, small reflections on loss, healing, and rebirth. Messages began to appear. "Thank you. You put into words what I couldn't say." Helena smiled. She was healing others again, but this time from wholeness. One day, she drove to the ocean. The wind embraced her like an old friend. The waves whispered like memory. She stood before the horizon and closed her eyes. The sea spoke without words. Everything that exists returns to where it belongs. And she knew Raphael was not gone. He was here, in the air, in the salt, in her own heartbeat. The silence was no longer empty. It was full of him, of life, of everything she had become, spring came, and with it, an invitation. A message from a woman named Clara, one of her old patients. Lost and searching, Helena reopened her practice, but it was no longer the same. The space was simple, full of light and plants. Before each session, she lit a single candle and whispered, "Let this flame remind me that healing begins in presence." People came. They spoke of pain, of confusion, of longing. She listened. She no longer tried to fix, only to witness. Healing, she would tell them, is not being repaired. It is being seen fully, gently, as you are, and in seeing others, she continued to see herself. One afternoon, she sat alone in her garden. The air was warm, the flowers awake, and the sun touched her face softly. A breeze passed, light as a sigh, and she felt it, that same familiar presence. "You were right," she whispered. "Life never takes, it transforms." That evening, she opened her old notebook and wrote one final time. "Life is not about avoiding storms, but learning to dance in the rain. Pain broke me, yes, but through the cracks the light entered, and now I understand. To live with purpose is simply to live with presence." She closed the notebook and smiled. Outside, the first light of dawn touched her face. The silence that once broke her had become the silence that rebuilt her. Helena discovered that silence wasn't the end. It was the beginning, and maybe, deep down, we're all waiting for that same moment, the one when the noise finally fades, and we can hear what our hearts have been trying to say all along. But what about you? When was the last time you were truly silent? When was the last time you listened to what lives inside you without fear of what you might find? How many times have you run from yourself, calling it focus, when it was really escape? How many times have you said, "I'm fine," while something inside you was begging for change? Helena didn't have a choice, life silenced her, but you do. You can choose to pause before your body screams, before your soul gives up. You can choose to listen to the silence not as punishment, but as a teacher. The question is, will you keep repeating the same cycle, or will you let the silence change your life too? If this story spoke to you, it's because something in your soul recognized the truth behind the words. So don't let it fade here. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, and keep learning with each new video how to turn pain into awakening, fear into courage, and silence into purpose. The purpose of life is not to escape the silence, but to listen until it speaks.